Hello, dear ministers of the gospel, and thank you for joining me for this presentation. My name is Ngam Neville Dasa, and the presentation you're about to receive stems from a project carried out at Tyndale Theological Seminary in Badhoevedorp, the Netherlands. So let's get right in. So we are looking at towards church planting networks, fostering church planting partnerships among local churches of the Cameroon Baptist Convention. In a quest to fulfill the Great Commission, many pastors, missionaries, and scholars are arriving at the conclusion that partnership is the most effective strategy. J.D. Payne accurately declares that the world is too large, too diverse, too needy, too dark, and too significant for missionaries, churches, denominations, and mission agencies to work alone. In total agreement with Payne, Craig Oates and Gene Wilson admit no church or association of churches has access to all the unreached people groups of the world or enough resources and wisdom to fulfill the Great Commission on its own. These truths are further buttressed by Luz Bush and Laurie Lotz, who concurrently state that the Great Commission is most likely to be fulfilled when we collaborate in sharing personnel and resources, doing away with duplication and competition. These authors attest to the reality that networking and partnerships are needed in fulfilling the Great Commission. These observations are not only valid for different parts of the world, the truth in them is also applicable to the Cameroonian context. Out of its 294 people groups with a total population of about 30 million people, 50.79% are Christian adherents, with only 8.64% as evangelicals, while 14.2% is classified as unreached. Not only is there a significant presence of Islam in Cameroon, there is also a high level of corruption at all levels of the society. And some among those who claim to be Christians are actually syncretistic. So the nation needs the active proclamation of the gospel in many fronts and the establishment of new congregations for discipleship. This work can neither be done by a single congregation nor denomination. So there is indeed a need for partnership and networks. Now, debatable as it may be, Ed Stetzer and Warren Bird assert that church planting networks are doing more in bringing new congregations into existence today than denominations are. Now, if there is any iota of truth to this assertion, then it is an opportunity to be grasped by the church and exploited for the spread of the gospel. Networks such as Summer Network, Ecclesia Network, V3 Network, Association of Relational Churches, Stadia, Sojourn Network, Summit Network, Church Multiplication Network, Sovereign Grace, the Pillar Network, and the NETS Center are doing tremendous work in training, mentoring, sending, coaching, and launching new congregations, just to name a few of these networks. Now, the existence of these networks and the work that they do is a fact which demonstrates the effectiveness of church planting networks in a broad variety of national and cultural contexts. So the Cameroon Baptist Convention, CBC, and the Indigenous Church in Cameroon regards church planting as a mission strategy, especially in reaching remote communities. Now, efforts have been made by both the CBC as a denomination and by some local congregations in their respective contexts to evangelize new communities by planting churches in them. In some cases, international partners have collaborated either with the denominational authorities or with local churches directly. Nonetheless, in recent years, there has been a greater call for the involvement of the local church in missions and church planting than was the case in the past. More and more churches are taking action. The venture is, however, not without some challenges. And so let's look at the problem. While some CBC churches appear to be competing with each other to see who can plant the highest number of churches within a given period of time, there are others who are yet to be involved in church planting ventures for reasons that this research inquires into. In no way undermining the few churches already venturing into church planting partnerships, this research examines how CBC local churches can more effectively partner in planting gospel-centered and contextually relevant churches in Cameroon. So the thesis that is defended by this project is learning from church planting networks in different parts of the world. Local congregations of the CBC can develop biblically informed and contextually relevant strategies for collaboration to plant sustainable churches in Cameroon and beyond. The purpose and significance. The purpose of this study is to create an awareness among pastors and congregations of the potential and advantages that partnership in church planting holds in the fulfillment of the Great Commission, so that more local churches of the CBC will initiate and keep church planting partnerships. Now, in a YouTube video that gives an overview of the Evangelism and Missions Department of the CBC, the director of this department, Paul Wose Mokake, states that one of the reasons for which the department exists is to enhance the planting of gospel-believing churches within Cameroon and out of Cameroon. He also specifies that in the past, the department has faced challenges in the mission field, especially those out of the country, that have led to the failure of missions ventures. In line with this, one of the senior ministers of the CBC, who has served for over 30 years, has attributed the failures not only to the lack of finances, but primarily to the lack of appropriate partnership strategies. Thus, a project with the potential to initiate cooperation among churches for church planting will certainly help this department in fulfilling its function. Additionally, if CBC churches that appear to be competing with one another would instead complement each other, their combined effort would potentially have more believers identifying with the church plant, praying for and supporting it. Working together would possibly take care of some challenges of planting solo. Probably the result would even be greater if every church is involved. More churches planted would potentially result in more souls being won, a numerical increase in the CBC, more church planting partners, increased funding, and therefore even more churches planted, moving a step further in fulfilling the Great Commission. Methodology. The project uses a qualitative research approach to examine the concept of partnership in church planting between local churches of the CBC. The study combines insights from the researcher's experience, examination of historical records, literature review, and data collected from the field, delimitations and limitations. The scope of the study is limited to the Cameroon Baptist Convention and may not be applicable to other regions or denominations. Some parts of the research rely heavily on data from CBC archives, which can be challenging if some of these records are incomplete, restricted or classified, and hence unavailable. This presentation serves as an introduction to the entire project. I will now give you an outline or an overview of what the remaining presentations will bring forth. So this is the first of 4 presentations, and the second presentation is going to be looking at the biblical basis for ministry partnership and a historical survey of church planting in the CBC from inception to present, or from inception to the time of independence. This presentation will demonstrate, so the second presentation will demonstrate how selected Bible verses commend and or attest to partnership for ministry. It will go further to examine how this has been applied in the CBC over the years from its inception to present. And understanding of what has been done as well as what is being done will lay a foundation for what can be improved on. The third presentation will look at a global perspective, church planting partnership models used in other contexts. Now, this will explore church planting partnership models being practiced in different contexts around the world. This is relevant because CBC local congregations can learn from these models, determining which ones can be contextually applied in Cameroon. And the final presentation will look at application, conclusion, and recommendations. And in that presentation, We will summarize findings from a survey carried out among CBC pastors on the possible hindrances to church planting partnerships, and will make recommendations on overcoming the challenges and put forward implications of the entire study for the CBC. Thank you very much for your attention, and see you in the next presentation.